agenda work session, April 23rd, 2015. We're attempting to set the agenda for the May 14th regular council meeting. Janet, if we could have the roll call, please.
Mayor Lambert,
Here.
Vice Mayor Griffin,
Here.
Councilmember Cagle,
Here.
Councilmember Manning,
Here.
Councilmember Sewell,
Here.
City Manager Wright,
Here.
City Attorney Doyle.
Before we start looking at the items of business, I do want to mention very quickly that as soon as we roll through these items on the work session agenda, we will need to have an executive session briefly before the regular council meeting starts. We have our TML attorney, Keith Grant, who's here, would like to speak with us on a particular matter. So just to let everyone know, we will do that prior to the regular council meeting. Hopefully get in here in time for that meeting to start at 6:30. Now, with that dispensed of, we will look at item A, resolution 2474.
Mayor, we discussed this before. It's a resolution to obtain bids for subcontracting of the mowing services at I-75 Exit 1. We currently have a TDOT contract for the amount of $14,715. It expires on June 30th of this year, and of course we will seek to enter into another contract. The reason why it's in red, we typically don't like to do that, to ask to move them up, but this is kind of sensitive to the season. We just actually finished our first mowing out there. It's been very difficult to get out there due to the weather and how wet it's been, but we have mowed. But we are allowed, talking to Representative Gravitt this week, Vice Mayor Gravitt, we are allowed to subcontract. So we would like to seek the council's permission to go out, put this out for bid, to seek minimum of 2 mowings a month, maximum, 2 mowings a month, to keep that looking good. We're going to also look at planting wildflowers out there. That would not be part of this agreement. We would handle that internally, but just wanted to get permission to move it forward to possibly get, so we can do by putting this out for bid.
And this would not be committing us to anything other than just asking the city manager to take bids, see what we've got, and then we would come back, and if we want to go forward with that, we can. If we don't want to, we don't have to.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
If we contract this out, they still pay the city?
That's correct. They don't care who mows it. They just care that it gets mowed and that we fulfill the agreement that is in the current contract. So whoever we would subcontract with, they would have to fulfill the agreement. We would monitor that and keep up with that. TDOT, doesn't matter if they're wearing a city shirt or a private business shirt. They would still pay us the same amount. And then we'd either hopefully get a bid for this amount or somewhere in that neighborhood that would flow through for a whole lot less. And that would be the hope.
Now, this 2 times a month times 12, or 2 times a month times 5, or
Just whatever it took during the season. It's a year-long contract, so it'd be as needed 2 times a month. Would be, I would imagine how we would have that written up on an as-needed basis, a maximum of 2 times a month.
why is it that you are considering us not mowing it and put it out?
Well,
It's not cost effective for us to mow it for the 14,000?
we wear our equipment out quite a bit going down there. We put a lot of people into that. We've got a lot of manpower. There's a lot of hidden costs that go out there. It takes us typically 2 to 3 days to mow that. Somebody can come in with bigger equipment that they do. There are contractor companies out there that do this now for TDOT. That'd be somebody we'd look at to do. It's just a recommendation. This is just something to see what it would cost.
Since it looks like it's not cost effective for us to do it, so why don't we just not renew the contract and then TDOT subcontract and have somebody else instead of us being the middle person for another contract?
That's an option as well. That'd be for this council to entertain. We'd lose complete control over whoever did it that frankly.
I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but TDOT will essentially pay for 10 mowings. Is that correct, Warren?
That's what it is, this contract.
Could be one a month, and just from history, we know sometimes it could go 2 or 3 months between mowings, and it would look like a hayfield. So, I mean, it's just.
That dude's on the There have been places, and we have focused, passed by a few places with the wildflower,
Yes.
and they look, and some of them get that high. You know, about, somebody needs to cut hay, it's got flower. Right, we did wildflower, but rough,
And,
right?
and then we looked at that option, obviously, for a while, and they allow that if we wanted to go that option as well. But you're right, sometimes the weeds grow up between those and you can't see the flowers, but if you keep up with.
And this is just an option.
Sure.
No one says that we have to contract it out, but, it's just an option.
I understand that, but it's just the fact that, the way I'm understanding him, it's actually costing us more than what we're bringing in to do the mowing. And then if we can't get a contractor to do it for less than what we're being paid, well, then I'd say just give it back to T-Dot and let them subcontract it.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt. You're right. We do not make money. We lose money on this deal. The question is, is it worth it to us to pay a little extra to have Exit 1 look nice? Because it can go a long time between moments when T-Dot doesn't.
Ever since I've started attending city council meetings, the figure that was always thrown around was $40,000 a year. That's the figure that I've heard up here for years. From when Frida Wheeler was over at, that $40,000 figure is always what I heard. If we can find someone to come in here, you know, for doing anywhere near what is covered by the state, I would be a fan of doing that.
I wouldn't want to pay no more than what the state's paying us, even though it's costing us.
Well, even though it's costing us from, like I said, $40,000 is the figure I've always heard. So you don't, if someone comes in here and bids $20,000, you'd still rather the city do it
Still loses $6,000.
versus losing $26,000.
If we give it back to the state, then we'll actually get $14,000 in our hands for not having to pay out.
But then the state only cuts it about once every month or two, too.
Sometimes they don't cut it in, sometimes they right.
My voice not.
Oh, really? Just, not calling on names, but we got a guy sitting in the office, who cuts grass. No, we don't. He cut mine.
Unless there are objections, we can move. I'm okay with moving this forward. Again, it's not committing us to paying anything, it's just saying what's out there. See what.
And the reason why we put it red is because our next meeting's 3 weeks out. And that we can get bids back and have a decision by the end if we want to continue to do it ourselves, contract it, or make a decision going forward July 1st, not to renew.
Yeah, and I spoke to the TDOT legislative representative over there in Nashville, and they said that as long as the subcontractor provides the city of East Ridge, then we in turn provide it to the state. They have absolutely no problem with us subcontracting it out. One of the things that we do need to have the city needs to be in the request for proposal or request for bid, whichever you plan on doing, is, you know, insurance, liability, and they have the understanding that they must provide the paperwork.
Without the cost, end up in that place, you might take a loss.
We haven't looked at anything like that yet, hadn't come into my discussion.
I actually just spoke to the TDOT representative, day before yesterday?
Yes.
Yesterday, maybe, day before yesterday.
All right, so again, if there are no objections, we will move this to tonight's agenda as item D under new business, resolution 2474, which would authorize the city manager to obtain bids for subcontracting and mowing services. Exit 1. All right, the next item is an unnumbered resolution to approve bids for paving costs.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got a discussion on the agenda at 6:30 to discuss paving bid process. And then, of course, we'll go forward. That's what this is for the 14th. What what we would look at, I talked to an engineer about this, the bid process, you'd bid this by area, so it'd be like for square yard, and for your thickness of your asphalt, so for a square yard, 1.5 inches of resurfacing, and possibly 1.5 inches or 2 inches of grinding if we decided. And so the price would be square foot for asphalt, square foot for grinding, if we decided to grind or to mill a particular road that we wanted. And as rough as some of these roads are, and as much as paving that you do, sometimes if you don't grind, if you don't mill it, then it interrupts your stormwater drainage, and you have some issues, and it goes over the side of the curbs and sidewalks of the yard, and it doesn't go where it's supposed to. So milling is especially important. We are in the process of starting to develop our list of priorities, areas that need to be the primes. One down here, we talked about, Jackie, the school, John Ross.
John Ross up here.
Yeah, John Ross is
Yeah,
one,
Belmore.
Belmore, and not Clemens, but Astor.
Astor.
You know, so those are some of the roads we're looking at. I even looked at that. There's one right out here. Congress is starting to get a little bit out here. You can almost pick just about any street in the city that does need paving, but we're gonna have to prioritize because of the amount of funding we get. But this is the process that makes it easier, because then we don't have to go out and say, all right, every time we need to repay for surface of the road, we put it out for bid. This gets you a price per square yard for milling and it could be 2 different companies that do that. Milling is fairly expensive. They've got a set price, but we can get that set in stone, and then we can just call and say, we've got a road that we need paved next month, or next week. And we would know what the cost would be based off the area to be paved.
As long as we do like we've discussed the past several months, coordinated with WWTA as far as their line.
And the gas company.
And the gas company, and, yeah.
About the water, they absolutely don't line that, sweetheart, every, is completed.
I know I have talked to Melvin and Norman about Vesper down here. Vesper, where the digits fell in, the concrete wall.
I believe that's
Okay.
that best.
What is the status on that thing? Have they started the piping? They told me they had the pipe to go in.
We've got the pipe, we've got waiting on, we called the first one to call to get it marked before we start digging.
Yeah, Tennessee one call, you gotta call, obviously before we dig or do anything, we have to do that, obviously. So we're in that process, waiting for them to mark it and tell us where all the lines are, so it's on the project.
And also one behind Kmart, that ditch where I showed you, this caved in, that's filling the ditch in. The water goes down that bridge like behind Kmart, filling that up. Don't give a headache.
All right.
We'll move on to item C, another unnumbered resolution. This would be authorizing the city manager as designee to purchase portable radios for the East Ridge Fire Rescue Department through the Tennessee Department of General Services statewide contract list.
Correct, this falls with suit with some of the information that we put out, and Thad's worked with this quite a bit with Mike, and also the next one with the police department. And there's a state contract out there on police radios. There's really only one supplier that supplies the radios in this area. Put them out for bid, and the type of radios we use, the type that are compatible with the EOC are, I believe, the Motorola style. I don't have the particular brand or anything with Motorola, but those are the kind that are used in this area. And so we would just be making a recommendation to go with the state contract.
Are there any grants out for these?
These would be financed with grant funds from the Homeland Security Grant, with $9,200 available for fire and $92 for police. We could buy 3 police radios, 2 fire radios. Fire are a little more expensive because they seem to intervention, they have special needs, heat resistance, water resistance. So
So it won't be coming out of general fund, it'll be coming out of grants.
you can add grant funds.
Okay.
Councilman Manning, there is we brought this up in past meetings, that our radio system, as far as our portable radios, they will be going out of date in about 5 years, okay? So what we had discussed with Mr. Kowalski was also doing a 5-year plan. We've also been notified by Homeland Security that we'll be receiving another grant with the same amount of money next year. That same amount of money coming into the county, that's not necessarily saying that we'll get the same amount to East Ridge. We don't know that for sure. It's the same lump sum that comes to the county. The county distributes it across about 7 or 8 other different counties. How many counties in charge of it? Because they're in the center of the location. They distribute that depending on the necessities each county has. The fire department will be able to purchase 2 portable radios out of that money. I think the prices were around $5,000. So we received $9,200. The police department received $9,200. I believe Chief Reed will be able to buy more than 2 radios with his $9,200. And the reason being is the fire radios require so much more waterproofing and other things like that because they do go in house fires and such. So they're a little bit more expensive.
That's $5,000 each.
$5,000 each, yes, sir.
I noticed
It's
the
fire department, yes, sir.
police radios are $3,400 each. How many of those are you gonna need?
Overall?
Yeah.
Overall, we need about 35.
And we'll need about 31 total. The number of total radios we got on board is 31. 5 years.
Councilman Garrett, unfortunately, this is something that started in 13
Yeah.
October when they put the announcement out about the radio that we currently have. You might be aware of it, the second notification in October was on 14th. And then it gave a date in November 14th. So at that time, obviously, the blindside again was something that happened prior to it. When the grant came up, we were pretty much to get that was first round, we were passed over, what we were notified and didn't get it. I told them they can
We're gonna have
We were
to,
not even notified to begin with.
These radios,
we're gonna have to drop about $300,000 on radio.
In the future, yes, sir. In the next 5.
Yeah, that's 5.
And that's not including the mobile radios. And we've decided to get away from the mobile radios out of vehicles and go with our portables because the portables transmit as far as the mobile radios do. So that's not even counting replacing those radios on the trucks.
so the radios that you're buying now, we can do ones, or in 5 years, we have to buy?
5 years, these radios, majority of these radios, I say majority, I think the fire department has 4 radios now that will be compatible in 5 years. Okay. We have a total of 31 radios. So those radios minus the 4 will have to be replenished within 5 years.
If I may, two,
Can I ask a question? I understand that there's one supplier that has the state contract. Is there any chance of us putting this thing out for bid? And I don't care if they're not in the state of Tennessee, if they're in California, is there any chance that we could get them cheaper?
The problem is,
Or is it tied to a grant?
we went from digital to analog, or I'm sorry, we went from analog radios to digital radios. That's because that's what the system changed over to.
Right.
Chattanooga is the host of the system. So we pay them through communications for radio maintenance, communications maintenance, so they only will work on Motorola radios. Okay? Motorola being a sole source and a division area sales representative, there's one dealer in this area. Those are state bid contract prices.
excuse me, we did try bidding them out, and we didn't receive sufficient bids, other than the state contract bidder who did bid. Other than that, we received bids that weren't sufficient, and they offered other merchandise. and according to the chiefs, weren't compatible with the trends in the area and the trends with the city's pursuit here.
Do we use any of the band money for these?
After, yeah,
Communication will not program any other radio other than Motorola radio.
I understand.
I think it's a timing thing with the band money. I think past history has showed that we can use the band money. I mean,
there is a precedent for using the band money on, City Attorney and I were discussing this over this evening, where depending on how you read the, depending on how you
interpret it.
If you read it broadly, you know,
Yeah.
you can use it for just about anything. If you read it narrowly, you use it for land purchases, park development, and streets and roads, and recreational activities. And then anything that support, and that's what's read broadly.
Anything
that supports those functions. Now, if the council should determine to consider that broadly, then we can certainly purchase that with the band.
One thing too,
I spoke to the Tennessee Municipal League, and they recommended that we look at it narrowly. I followed up after the city attorney commented at the last meeting.
They recommend the narrow approach.
They recommend the narrow approach and having to play it safe.
but one thing,
But what I was gonna mention, sir, that there are two things. The money that we're spending now on repair costs, we won't be spending once they're replaced, and they can be phased in over time in the capital improvement, as part of our capital improvement.
That's what I was gonna suggest,
So we don't
is
have
it
to
sounds
buy
like
small
something,
amounts.
if we've got 5 years, it sounds like something we could buy 3 or 4 a year, and we'll be most of the way there in 5
We
years.
plan to present that as a part of the budget when we present the capital improvement plan next month.
by you having the radios you got now, correct me if I'm wrong, if something happens to them now, you take this gentleman close to buying now, he can fix what you got.
That's correct. Motorola has actually we'll take them to the Chattanooga shop, or we'll have a Motorola dealer here work on them.
That counts a lot, because it gets away on somebody
Parts of it.
3 or 4 months later, and then your radio got whacked.
What you eventually will is if the radio is severely damaged, or, like I say, done in, or there's no parts available, that's what you're running to. And so obsolete, they do replace parts. And they generally give you this much for 5 years for parts, but because of the
Well, thank you, gentlemen, I appreciate it. And that takes care of items C and D, and we will stop there. And we will exactly pick up after the regular council meeting. We have about 7 minutes or so, and we're going to go back for the executive session, be as quick as we can and get back out for the regular meeting.